Transvestigation refers to the practice of attempting to determine the biological sex of individuals, primarily celebrities, through photographic and video evidence. This concept, which emerged as part of a conspiracy theory in the late 2010s and early 2020s, posits that many prominent figures, including athletes, politicians, and historical personalities, are secretly transgender. However, these investigations often rely on pareidolia and are heavily influenced by confirmation bias. Critics, including Baptist News Global, have compared these methods to eugenics practices, such as craniometry. While transvestigators may correctly observe atypical body types or movements, they frequently draw incorrect conclusions, mistaking evidence of homosexuality for indications of being transgender. This misinterpretation is rooted in societal biases and a lack of understanding about the natural diversity in human physiology and motion. Research, such as the findings published by UCLA in 2007, suggests that these traits are often associated with sexual orientation rather than gender identity. A study led by Carrie Johnson, an assistant professor at UCLA, demonstrated that subtle cues in body type and motion could indicate an individual's sexual orientation. Johnson and her team measured the hips, waists, and shoulders of 16 volunteers, 8 men and 8 women, half gay and half straight. They found that gay men and women tended to exhibit more gender atypical body types and motions. For example, gay men were more likely to have hourglass figures and display hip sway, while gay women were more likely to have tubular figures and exhibit shoulder swagger. In addition, casual observers were able to deduce the sexual orientation of male participants with over 60% accuracy simply by watching their gait, even without seeing their faces or clothing. These findings reinforce the idea that many traits transvestigators focus on, such as wider hips, shorter arms, or specific facial features, are more closely linked to sexual orientation than to gender identity. The tendency of transvestigators to label Hollywood celebrities as transgender rather than gay may stem from homophobia. By framing their observations as evidence of gender identity rather than sexual orientation, transvestigators may unconsciously avoid confronting the prevalence of homosexuality in popular culture. This misdirection implies heterosexuality as the default, preserving a heteronormative lens while perpetuating conspiracy theories about secret rituals like elite gender inversion. Transvestigation videos have proliferated on social media platforms, particularly video sharing sites. These videos scrutinize male actors' physical traits, such as wide hips, short arms, widow's peaks, feminine eyes, or unusual chest muscle shapes, and claim these features prove transgender identity. However, as the aforementioned research indicates, such traits are often manifestations of homosexual identity, not transgender identity. Within transvestigation circles, figures like Joan Rivers are celebrated for controversial claims, such as her 2014 statement suggesting Michelle Obama is transgender. However, this rhetoric further exemplifies the misalignment of observations with conclusions, perpetuating harmful stereotypes and misinformation about gender and sexuality. Ultimately, transvestigators correctly identify body types and motions that deviate from traditional gender norms. However, their conclusions about these traits being evidence of transgender identity are flawed. Instead, these traits often align with scientific findings about homosexuality, as shown in studies on body motion and shape. Recognizing this distinction could help shift the conversation from one of conspiracy to one informed by scientific understanding and acceptance of diversity in human sexuality and physiology.